Welcome to the Tech M&A Podcast. Presented by the Corum Group. Today we are speaking with Luis Landgrave, co-founder of Algebraix, an edtech and fintech company serving private schools across Latin America with a primary focus on Mexico. Over nearly 2 decades, Luis helped build Algebraix into a school management platform with an integrated fintech arm that processes tuition and payments on behalf of schools. Momentum that ultimately led to a successful sale through Corum, after years of inbound interest from investors and acquirers. Let's begin. Luis, to get us started, could you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Algebraix?
My name is Luis Landgrave, and I'm from Mexico. My company is called Algebraix. It's an edtech and fintech company for private schools and LatAm pretty much, and mostly Mexico.
How did you first learn about Corum? And how did you go about selecting an advisor?
I think the first we heard about Corum was maybe 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We started getting contacted by different funds and search funds and PE funds. I don't know if either for investment or possible earnout buyouts. And we weren't ready at all at that point. And Corum contacted us as well. We don't know how they got to us, but they invited us to a seminar in Mexico City. And we went. And it was very interesting. We weren't thinking about selling at the time, but when we started the business, we always thought that would be a great exit. We never thought of this business as a legacy thing for our kids or anything. We always thought about selling as a perfect exit. So yeah, once we went to the seminar, we loved it. We got good information. We said, this sounds like something we'll want to do in the future.
There was quite a gap between first hearing about Corum and actually moving forward. What was that period like? And what kept the relationship alive?
We got more information. They gave us a couple of calls every couple of years kind of thing. We stayed in touch. But so once we actually decided to go through with it, it was 9 or 10 years after that. Yeah.
What ultimately shifted in the business that made you take the idea of a transaction more seriously? Was it growing inbound interest or something happening internally?
Our company hit a turning point when we started processing payments. So around 2017, 2018, we started processing payments. Our revenue started growing a lot quicker. We started seeing better numbers, and it was a lot more attractive to a possible buyout or investors. And that's when we started getting more serious about the possibility. We always knew there were certain sweet spots as far as certain milestones and numbers you have to hit to be at a good point for certain buyers. So once we started seeing that as a possibility, we started taking it more seriously. And we had a first contact like in 2021 around the pandemic from a Brazilian company that wanted to buy us, and that was a serious offer. So they gave us really good advice before entering the deal. The deal didn't happen. A million things went wrong that usually do. And after that, we said next time we want to do it, we are going to try and do it with Corum and open it up and then do a big process, regular process. And that's what we decided to do about 3 years later after that on our own. Yeah.
Were there any surprises along the way, either in preparing for the process or once you were inside the transaction itself?
In the first one, I would say there were some surprises. The second one, and then once we did it hand by hand with Corum, honestly, there weren't that many surprises. We were a lot more educated on the process. We had lived through it once. We've seen all the seminars, digested all the information. We're a lot more ready to go through the process. And working with Corum actually helped a lot. Like the first one we did really extended up in time. We didn't have any timelines. So once the LOI was signed and everything, we only had one buyer and then everything was on their side. And once we went the second time around, even though we only ended up getting one official offer, we had the possibility of other buyers we were talking to. So that ended up resulting in better terms for the LOI and time limits and all of this. So due diligence actually happened within 3 months, 90 days, which was the goal. And yeah, it was a lot smoother sailing for the deal part for sure.
If you had to name 2 or 3 parts of the process that were more challenging than the rest, what would they be?
For us, we were both engineers and we had our fiscal stuff in order, our tax payments, our financial statements, but just the basic stuff. And once you get into the due diligence, especially our buyers were all from a super financial background and they all worked in PE firms or whatever. So they started asking for a lot of information. So producing all of those reports and all that needed to happen, that was very taxing for us. I would say that was the hardest part, probably just getting through the due diligence and producing everything where we're not experts at, and then create a lot of personal work for us. And but yeah, I think it was something we expected. We knew that had to happen, and it wasn't too bad, I guess. So.
On the buyer's side, were there outside parties or advisors engaging with you, or was the negotiation handled largely in-house?
Not really. I mean, they had their legal team, their fiscal team, and everybody that was going through the due diligence. But as far as the actual negotiating, like their profile, they had done a lot of M&A, like the buyers. So they were pretty good at it, and they had a lot of experience at it. And we were working with the Corum advisor directly, and we had our legal and fiscal as well. But for them, as far as the actual business negotiating, it was pretty much in-house for them. Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the buyer. Were they a strategic acquirer, a financial buyer, a family office?
It's a startup that raised some capital, and they had already experienced as a search fund. They were a successful search fund that they already sold. With that search fund, they bought around 5 companies, universities, and they were pretty successful. And then after that, they started this new startup now with private equity and raising a lot of capital. And we're the first acquisition they do with this new company, but they have a pretty good track record of M&A from their past venture. But this isn't really a search fund. This is actually a startup. And yeah.
How did you ultimately choose this acquirer? Did it come down to price, structure, cultural fit, or a combination of all of those?
It was a little bit of all the above. Like the company we had talked to some years behind had the exact same financial model. They were in Brazil. They were very successful. And this other company is doing the exact same business model in Mexico and other countries in LatAm. Right now they're in Mexico, Colombia, and Ecuador. So to us, it was a good business model. We've seen it work before. And then we were thinking about, oh, this sounds good. It's complementary to our business, and a lot of cross-selling could be done. And also timing, like a lot of money was entering the market, and we've been at the business for about 18 years. And it was always business as usual, and we've been growing at a steady clip for a long time. But in the past maybe 3-4 years, investment funds were getting in, and we're seeing young companies like this one with a lot of capital being very aggressive and competing in price and competing in different strategies that were complicating the market. And we said, it's a perfect time to sell, and we want to be quick and efficient about it. And we knew the model. We had a person in common from the Brazil deal and this one. So we felt it was good timing and the time to move forward, and considering all the variables, and they were right there.
What advice would you give to other founders and CEOs considering a sale, particularly here in the Latin American market?
I would say, especially if you have partners, that's not something I had a hard time with, because we have a pretty good relationship with a partner, and we talk very transparently about things, but making sure you're in tune and you have a good common plan as to what your objectives are and what you want to reach, because it's a true roller coaster of emotions. Once you start negotiating and things you thought weren't that important or that were completely off the table, and then once they're on and off and negotiating happens, emotionally you have to be pretty centered and neutral and ready to have shifts in the deal making, and that can really affect that part. And that as far as emotionally, and just making sure you have a good plan with your business partner. And besides that, I would say getting all your reporting and numbers in order before you start dealing. Like we had done a good amount of that with Corum. But once the LOI and the offer started coming in from that one company, we didn't have everything perfect. So it created a lot of reporting and financial work that could have been done with a little more timing and less pressure. So the more prepared you are, the easier the process will be. They'll still ask for a million things you think shouldn't be necessary, but they'll be less painful, I think, the more prepared you are.
And on the advisory side, your M&A attorney and tax counsel, were those local relationships you brought in yourself?
Yeah, they were local. We had a couple of recommendations from other people that have done M&A deals as far as the legal side, and from people that we also knew had the fiscal experience. So we hired them locally in Mexico City, and I don't think we have any complaints there. Really good.
Now that the deal has closed and you're still involved for a defined period, what does day-to-day life look like and what's the plan from here?
Yeah, the way we structured the deal, there was initial payment and there's some deferred payments and there's a couple of earnouts. So our deal was for 2 years, which I think the most I would recommend anybody to is maybe 2 years, and making sure you see how well a fit is with your new role and with the company once you're actually operating and living the day-to-day experience. There's a lot of things that will happen, and you obviously don't have the level of control you're used to, and that's a bit of a tough process. But overall, it's the operating side of it, I think, is what we expected. The renegotiating some parts of the deal that they're coming through with is the part that we don't like. But overall, I think we're happy we've done the deal, and we're happy the timing of when we did it. And yeah, we're looking forward to closing out the 2 years and seeing what's next, either where it's continuing with the project or finding something new. So, yes.
Luis, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. Thank you for tuning in to the Tech M&A Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends, colleagues, and fellow entrepreneurs. We release new episodes every 2 weeks, so make sure to subscribe and stay up to date on our latest interviews and tech M&A research. And while you're there, go ahead and drop us a rate and review. And if you have any suggestions or topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out to us on social media or email us at info@corumgroup.com. Join us again next time for more inspirational stories and practical tips from tech founders who have successfully navigated the exits of their companies.